Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for us to dig into the newspapers, bring you a gist of what to expect. Later on, we'll be joined by Dr. Kwame Asasanti, who will be joining us shortly as we get into the papers. So let's start. We have the Daily Graphic, Ghanaian Times, Daily Guide, the Finder newspaper, the Daily Statesman, together with the Today newspaper, Republic Press, Custodian, and more that we're going to be getting into. Let's start with this major story on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Halt SIM cards blockage. Minority PPP urge Communications Ministry. I'll bring you some details of that. Then the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, IOCO, warned public against illegal financial companies. In recent times, there's been a lot of talk about these as well. And on the back of what has happened with Men's Gold, you would realize that a lot of people are much more cautious when it comes to financial houses, so to speak, proffering outrageous benefits from time to time. Well, the SEC and IOCO are warning the public against illegal financial companies. 5 die in Galamsey pit, and that's a story we're bringing you today up north, and that is a sad, sad situation. There's also that story about a watchman, a security man who has passed again, and that is the 6th we're seeing up north. Another one of those incidents. There's also the Access Bank graphic business SME clinic, which goes to Takrady. On the back page of the paper, President inspects work on Isikuma Have Road. It's all to do with the Eastern Corridor. And Rotary International President inaugurates health projects. Jennifer Jones actually interacted with my colleague, Mamie C. Thompson. And she's in the country. She's been in the country and has held a number of engagements. But let's get into some of the stories there. So the minority in Parliament and the Progressive People's Party have urged the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization and the National Communications Authority to stop blocking SIM cards that are yet to be registered. They described the blockage as arbitrary and against the fundamental human rights of the people. Now, addressing the press in Parliament yesterday, the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu said the imposition of the punitive blockage, as he called it, curtailed the fundamental human rights of the people and deprived them of the need to use their mobile handsets in the event of emergencies. Quote, "They are simply punishing Ghanaians over their own failures and inability to synchronize data between the National Identification Authority and mobile operators in Ghana, and this punishment is unjustified." That is what Haruna Idrisu said. The minority leader expressed concern that instead of promoting the widespread use of communications services, there had been unnecessary requests for registration and multiple registration of SIM cards for contrived reasons, palpably designed to discourage ownership and operation of SIMs for national identification purposes. So this debate continues to rage on. There are different angles to it. You heard me recently engage Dr. Abdul Ganiyu, a PRO of the National Identification Authority. And even in respect of the EC falling on the Ghana card, he said that, look, we don't have timelines. We can't give timelines, but we're working as speedily as possible to get matters rectified. There are so many problems. There are people who have registered with the Ghana cards, a few people, and the Ghana cards were said to have no data on them. In other words, they were invalid. There was no data on them to be captured. So they couldn't be used by the EC. They couldn't be used by the telcos. There also were those who registered and had still not picked up their cards. I think over 700,000 of those. Then there was about 500,000 of those that had been yet to be printed, I believe, from the data he gave us. And there are those who have tried time and again. They've gone to register all right, but they simply can't trace their card. When they go here, it says it is our district. When they go to districts, it simply cannot be found. Those are some problems that they are facing. Dr. Ganiyu on that day mentioned that for some of those, it may be that the people registered, but the name or the center that was put there was erroneous. And so that led to these problems. But these are real problems. Go to LWAC and you see the number of people queuing there. You'll see how pathetic the situation is. But on the other hand, we need a Ghana card. We need an identification system like this. What some people across the world are saying is, and I was sharing the example of my friend recently, Ghanaian citizen. He's now a permanent resident in Canada. He has more than 3 cards that he can use to access any service in Canada, not a single card. Why can't we do that? Why does it have to be the Ghana card alone? How about passports? Because interestingly, You use your passport to get that. You see, that's the interesting bit. But let me say a very good morning to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Thank you for joining the conversation, sir.
Good morning, Ben. Good to see you.
Good to have you. I must say, I love your new glasses.
I'm following your footsteps. I like yours too.
You know, I actually have something just like that. But I was talking about the national identification card, or the Ghana card, so to speak, and all the matters arising from there. Any quick reactions to the latest developments? Some people, want to institute that class action to take up the NCA, the Communications Ministry, in court. What's your take?
It is always important that if you feel that an action of an individual is likely to affect your rights, you have every right to go to court. That is appropriate forum and seek redress. So if people want to take action, I am for it. Let's wait. The court will handle, and then we see what happens. But I believe that Ghana card must also put in their all so that all of us, at the end of the day, we can boast of having the card and use for all manner of activities. Advanced countries, when you go there, these things are very easy to procure, and in no time, you get yours and use it. I recall when I was in Switzerland, and then I got my Swiss permit, and I was moving, traveling around and all that. It's my hope and prayer that that day will come in Ghana where everybody will have that, and then we can use them for the purpose for which we procure them.
What do you think about the EC, though, saying that it wants to use the Ghana card as, with the continuing registration as the basis for that registration? How do you feel about that, especially with so many people without the Ghana card?
That is problematic because I support any e-activity, any e-process. I support that because that is the issue on hand now. But if you want to use a process that would disenfranchise most of the people, then I'm afraid you must take a second look at that. If you look at the situation now, there are a lot of people, through no fault of theirs, they don't have the cards. And then you are going to rely solely on that to, as it were, allow them to vote or not to vote. That means that those without a card who are genuinely qualified to vote will not be allowed to do so. But let us remember that election is an important exercise in a democracy, that when somebody has everything, is qualified to exercise his franchise and is denied that, it affects the quality of the election. So I believe that EC, much as they want to digitize everything, they want us to move, they want to move the country to another level in terms of digitization. They will have to hasten slowly and then listen to what wise counsel from all and sundry, so that any other document that the law permits, they can allow that, so that we all go and then decide who should rule at a point in time and who should represent it in parliament and whatnot. It is important that they listen with rapt attention and listen to what wise counsel.
All right. Let's quickly get into some other stories, Doc. The SEC and IOCO are warning the public against illegal financial companies. We'll get into that story on page 13 of the paper. And so the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Economic and Organized Crimes Office have warned the public against patronizing the services of 17 financial service companies which are operating illegally. The regulator of the investment and capital market industry and the anti-graft body said the warning followed a joint investigation which established that the companies were not licensed by the SEC. On the back of what we've seen, I beg your pardon. On the back of what we've seen to do with Men's Gold and other, entities that supposedly have not been able to meet the requirements, deposit payments of clients, what do you make of this? Because it appears we're having another flow of some of them in the system.
I am happy that the Security and Exchange Commission has come out to sound the alarm bell. It is good that, look, stay off. IOCO also is coming in to augment that the program. I love that. So that you will not be taken unawares. You are aware, they caution you and all that. But the bigger question is that if you have a body which is legally not qualified to operate, why do you even entertain them in the first place? They have to get them, the law, get them to face the music. Why are they wasting time? Arrest them, put them before court, let them defend themselves. If they have nothing to tell the court, a decision is taken and we'll move on. We don't have to countenance that at all because, look, we have seen a lot of resources that were pumped into such program just to make people feel comfortable and all that. If that money were to be reinvested into the economy, I'm sure we'll be far away from IMF and all that. So let us not waste time at all. If you are operating in a country without recourse to the law, I'm afraid you can't continue. You should pounce on them and put them before a court. Simplicity.
DC and Iyoko, definitely everybody wants. My final story, 5 die in Galamsey pit. And let me just say, Mapito CBD is right. To death in an illegal mining pit at Nangroma in the Mampugu Mwaduri district in the northeast region.
All right, so let's go to the Republic Press, and we have a president drops bombshell on Aisha Wan's deportation. We also, that's on, continuing on page 3. And then on page 4 is, I pay my light bills, Mahama rubbishes ex gratia claims. We know that former President Mahama there were some allegations that he had received millions in his ex gratia, but he says he pays his light bills. He was speaking on Accra-based TV station. He disclosed that only remunerations he gets are from pensions drawn like every worker in Ghana. Aside from that, I receive my only monthly pension like President Kufuor or President Rawlings was receiving until he died. That's all I get. And these allegations were by a governing New Patriotic Party's Bono Regional Chairman, Kwame Bafo Abonye, who suggested that Mr. Mahama was receiving millions in ex gratia payments.
That's Abronya DC.
Yeah, Abronya DC. So, I mean, he also added that the only lump sum he received was 230,000 salary areas in 2013.
Right.
Yeah.
That has been making the rounds, and a lot of portals have carried and he makes mention of the fact that it is public knowledge. If any payments had been made to him, the chief of staff, the reigning administration would be in the know. But what I take from that, before we get back to Doc, what I pick from that is the freedom or the impunity with which people can put out false news. And from both ends, there are things that have been said about our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, which are palpably false, but people put them out there. Things that have been said about former presidents, Mahama, with no basis that are put out there and all of that. And I'm asking myself, when will we begin to crack down on some of those? Yes, I mean, you remember the issue to do with Oliver Barker-Vormawor and putting up certain pieces of information. Yes, there are ways of dealing with them and on social media and all of that, but I think there ought to be a lot more responsibility because in this instance, this is a chairman, of the party in a region who is putting out these things. I don't think such people should be getting away with murder, so to speak, murder in quote, getting away with. Because when you slander someone like this, sometimes it's very difficult for them to come back. The news has gone out. The news has gone out. But I don't know what your take is, Dr. Asah-Asante.
It is very unfair that we discredit our leaders in such a manner. All right. You said it right, that time and again you hear attacks on President Akufo-Addo, some of which are never true. And we carry them as if they are true stories and we attack their integrity and all that. Not fair. The story about Mr. Mahama, extremely unfair. The facts are there. If you have an information against anybody, check and double check. That's the standard. But if you don't have anything to say, just shut up. Than you resorting to attacking individuals simply because they are opponents. We don't build a state like that. You don't build a democracy because like that. Because democracy is supported by what? Reliable information, so that all of us can feed on that. But if you want to deceive, if you want to manipulate, and you want to spew venom into the system, then I'm afraid you are out of democracy. And that is not what we want. We believe that since democracy is anchored on rule of law, some of these things, when they happen, we want the law to take its course so that we restore sanity into the system.
All right, let's go to another big story where the president drops bombshell on Aisha Huang's deportation. As Ghana continues to count its losses following the arrest of Galamsey kingpin Aisha Huang, the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, has waded into the conversation, offering a twist with claims that he's confused as whether the Chinese woman was initially expelled from the nation, as suggested by government officials and security officials. Mr. Asante, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, maybe before, Doc, before you come in, so the interesting twist that we're all grappling with has to do with the fact that he said he wasn't even aware whether, in fact, she had been deported. You know, last night, News Night and beyond, we heard from Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah. Of course, he talks about the fact that the proper term to use is repatriation.
Yeah.
As far as our sources reveal, she went only as far as on that Ethiopian airline flight as far as Ethiopia, because there was supposed to be a transit. Mm-hmm. The information minister confirms that she went as far as China proper. What cannot be confirmed is whether, per proper regulations, she was escorted all the way to China, which should have been the case. That has not been established. But we have flight details, boarding details, time details that attest to the fact that she left the shores of Ghana. But now people are raising a lot of questions on the back of the president saying this, which I find interesting, because if, the system, I don't want to mention names, but if the system knew this, then how come the president was saying what he did, which is pretty curious. Yeah. Back to you, Doc.
Sometimes these things, they worry me, because then you ask whether we are giving proper briefing to the president and ministers of state, because we don't want to hear them speaking very different language with regard to what a matter that should have one information point. It's strange. Who is deceiving who? We don't know. But that is not the way to go, because anything coming from the mouth of the president, it's a policy, it's an important statement that we cannot toy with at all. So whoever is briefing and you create such a problem, then you have to answer certain questions. Because the president, no president wants to deceive his people. For what? Far from it. But if he doesn't get the right briefing, then it creates a problem. It is not today. We have seen it once a while. We get some of such problems. I recall there was a time when Professor Mills was at Adenta saying that now water flows everywhere in Adenta through people's pipes and all that, which was the very opposite of the situation at the time. Who gave him that wrong briefing? Up to date. Nobody owned up and all that. But I believe the system will check on that so that ministers will speak with the same voice as the president, so that we don't have information that are distorted and all that. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody.
Okay, doke. So just to wrap with the daily graphic on the international front before I go to the daily guide, there were a few things I missed. In Africa, Ruto has been sworn in Kenya. Yeah. William Ruto. And interestingly, Raila Odinga, though he accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court, did not attend this. Interestingly also, apart from, usually they have a religious setting, which William Ruto has touted a lot. Apart from a Catholic priest, a traditional, I think, what would I say? So a traditional religion representative and another one. There was also the evangelical grouping there in full force, to which William Ruto belongs. When you look at the situation in Kenya, at least we've not seen what we saw in 2007 and 2017 in terms of the chaotic scenes. But on the back of this interesting way in which William Ruto has come to power, how hopeful are you that he will be able to deliver some of the things he says he will do for Kenya?
He has to, because once you promise, we will hold you to it. You need to deliver on your promise. Otherwise, the next election, forget it. Let us remember that Odinga has been looking for power for a very long time. Arrest, detention, abuse, and all that. He has gone through all this. So if you have gone through elections successfully, somebody challenged you at the Supreme Court and you won the day, and you are given mandate and you cannot govern, then I'm afraid I don't know what you are up to. Democracy teaches everybody a lesson, but sometimes some of the lessons are so bitter. I'm not sure he's interested in what the other aspect, bitter lessons, right? We vote for people to come and then manage resources on our behalf so that life becomes easier for everybody. This is what I expect Ruto to do, and he should be able to bury all differences and then develop a big stomach for, as it were, excuse my word, nonsense, and you move on. That is the spirit of democracy. And that whoever also loses election must abide by the rules of the game and accept defeat and all that. I like the spirit of both leaders, especially Odinga, where he said, the Supreme Court has spoken. I'm going with that. The fact that he did not appear at the ceremony and all that, he could have added to the pomp and pageantry. But if we did not get it, it doesn't mean anything. Once he has accepted that, yes, the decision of the court is the right to go, then we are building the frontiers of democracy so solid that will stand the test of time.
Another quick African story just to wrap with the Daily Graphic. 15% of Africa's GDP growth lost to climate change. And Mapito, this is precisely why in the Netherlands recently there was talk about how climate change is impacting Africa. And Africa is losing some 5% to 15% of its per capita economic growth due to the effects of climate change. And we're talking trillions of dollars. We're staring down a nearly $1.3 trillion climate finance gap for the 2020 to 2030 period. But let me get back to the politics very quickly. Two stories I'll do. I'll just take the headlines from the Daily Guide and focus on Galamsey, because there are two stories that focus on that. Mahama attacks Nana over Galamsey, that's on page 3. Then there's 5,000 Chinese deportation claims false. There's also SEC Ioko blacklist 17 investment firms. Eastern Corridor Road completes in 2023, and SP, Special Prosecutor, clears Atachia over malfeasance. Let's look at the stories to do with Galamsey. So, in the first one by Ernest Kofi Addo, former President John Dramani Mahama has accused President Akufo-Addo of superintending illegal mining activities in the country, alleging some key members of his government and party are neck deep in the operation. According to him, the president is unable to prosecute the notorious illegal gold mining offenders because the executives of the NPP allegedly have concessions and are operating in forest reserves. I'm sure you recall the issue to do with the former women's organizer of the MPP and some excavators of hers being impounded and all of that, and people begging on her behalf. So this is the first end of it. But the second end, which is on page 6, let me get to that story, talks about 5,000 Chinese deportation claims false. And per the Daily Guide, it has emerged that claims by former President John Dramani Mahama that he showed a leadership in the fight against illegal mining by deporting about 5,000 Chinese nationals are false. Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, in a data shared from the Ghana Immigration Service, indicated that only 1,641 Chinese nationals were repatriated from Ghana between January 2009 and 2022. But here's the interesting bit. I listened to Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah yesterday interacting with my colleague Evans Mensah, and what he said was that yes, the sum is close to 5,000, but the proper term to have used would be repatriation, because there is a shade of difference between deportation and repatriation. But the former president had used the word deportation, when in fact, the technical word to have used would be repatriation. Not all of them were deported. Semantics, so sometimes the stories that also make it into our papers are a bit problematic. Your take on the Galamsey fight and how it's gone. If I asked you, Doc, is Akufo-Addo doing what you would have expected in the fight against Galamsey, what would you say?
He has lost it.
He has lost it?
Yeah, because look at the president. He put his job online, that he will fight it head on. Is that what we are seeing? We talk as if that those who are engaging in Galamsey don't come from this country. But go to our communities. Children can point at them. They are not using cutlasses or hoes. They are using machines that you ask yourself, did the security people see them? The national security, the BNI, the whatnot. But for the security, I'll hold a little brief for them. They always write their report. But those who are, office holders, do they implement them? No. One would have expected that the president would have been extremely firm on this. But this one, I'm afraid, Mr. President, he has failed in this regard. We still have galamsey going on, and people are doing it with what? With impunity and destroying the environment. And it looks as if that there is no authority to regulate or to deal with these things. For me, as a student of politics, I come back to all that I say. Regulatory capacity is extremely weak. What do you mean by that? You need laws to regulate this and enforce them. We have them already. Enforcement. Why is it a problem? And that is why people are saying that there are some party people who are complicit. And once you talk about party people, then you see the pusher of all leaders of all cap parties unable to deal with their own. That is unfair, and that's it doesn't help anybody. I believe that Mr. President must be strong in this area, because this is one of the things if he is able to do, he will leave a lasting legacy for the people of Ghana. If he failed to do this, this is going to be a campaign against his party, and I'm not sure he's interested in what the negative as we come to what campaign when people are using this as tools of what messaging against one another. We need to shy away from this. Apart from everything, let us remember that the continuous abuse of our environment and all this, a time will come if we don't take a we'll run away from this country and seek shelter somewhere, because we destroy our environment, we won't have food, no water, and all that. Why? And we as a people also must be vigilant and then take the people on that, look, we will not permit this, and that we will use the law to get them, apprehend them, and hand them over to the police and see whether they can take action or not. All right. That is for me what we should do. After all, vigilance, the price of liberty. Then I'll move on to the issue of Eastern Corridor Road. I am always happy when I see work done on that road, because it is one of the areas that will produce a lot of food for this country. If you are familiar with that terrain, the very difficult terrain John Mahama started. If you look at, some of the portions up to Nkwanta, beautiful, done by John Mahama. He continued, and Nana is also continuing. Recently, I drove and I used the road, and Nana is also working extremely hard. I love that. They should double their effort, but I want them to quicken the pace, because if you drive from Accra to, Peki, it's a sorry story. Even though they are working on it, they should double up, because, look, it doesn't speak well of us that there are people who pay their taxes, who work to support their country, and this is the road that leads to their area, and an area where we get a lot of food stuff. It's unfair. But the good news is that the government is also working on. John also did his best in that area. They have to quicken the pace and then move it from Accra to Hohwe and all those areas.
Right.
That place are very difficult terrain. And it is my hope and prayer that one day when we drive there, we will enjoy driving as it were. The issue of deportation of those who engage in galamseys and the stories thereof, all right? We are not interested in all the figures and all the stories. All that we want that program must cease from today. All of us must make sure that we support government effort. We force government where government is weak to make sure that we don't have galamsey. That is all. Whether we deported, whether we send people home and all that. All that we need to make sure that the law works. That is all. Once we get that, anybody who crosses the line, you have your fingers bent. But if we want to pay lip service to these things all the time, we'll come back and then use semantics, and then it will not help anybody.
Right.
We want action. And it should be what? Now.
All right, let's go to the Ghanaian Times, and the big story on page 17 is that 6,700 Ghanaians die annually from tobacco-related illnesses, and on page 4 is Restore Services to blocked SIM cards, and that's the minority to the NCA. So the minority is asking, why should the NCA and the ministry punish Ghanaians with a blockage of their SIM cards? Isn't the NCA aware that significant number of Ghanaians, especially the poor, have not been able to access the national ID? That is the only medium for registering through no fault of theirs. And that's Mr. Idrisu, a former Minister of Communications, who was asking that. We know, I think it was on Monday, Joseph Akable was at the Al Stadium, and you could see the numbers of people who were trying to get still trying to get their Ghana cards. You mentioned earlier that there were some faults with getting, some people got their cards and they were not valid.
Right.
You know, it's a clear case of you haven't done your work, right? You're not done with doing your work, but you are punishing us. So it's basically punishing us for the work that you have not done. You get it?
What you failed to do. You're punishing people for your failure.
For your failure.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of people, even some people who had registered their SIM cards were blocked. So it's like, you're not even doing your work, but you're punishing people for your failure.
Yeah.
Dr. Asah-Asante, what do you have to say about that?
The good news is that people are going to court, Kwame A+ and all that. Yeah, let's see the action at the courts so that at the end of the day, we can follow the conversation. But let me also look at the tobacco and its effect on the population. It's a difficult one. But the good news is that Ghana has a law banning tobacco smoking or cigarette smoking in public. That is a good one. But the difficulty associated with that law is that enforcement is weak. You see people who parade our street, sometimes smoking, and you ask yourself, where are the police officers? Where are the law enforcement agencies? They walk and pass them, and then they smoke. We have seen.
Well, the connection to Dr. Asah-Asante seems to have been truncated, a bit of an internet connectivity issue. But
well, Benjamin, on this tobacco thing, I think 6,700 Ghanaians, I mean...
dying annually. Wow.
Compared to South Africa, and I'm talking about South African statistics, I don't have the numbers per se, the exact numbers, but 6,700 is quite small. Yeah, it's quite small, because when I first came to Ghana, I felt like Ghana was not it was a good country, like a country where there are not a lot of smokers, you know. In South Africa, every corner you go, there's a smoker. So I think, like Doc was saying, is that enforcement, they've got the laws, that's good. I think enforcement is what's needed. So 6,700 Ghanaians dying annually, from my perspective, is not a lot. I know there are families, but it's not a lot. I've seen quite high numbers, but yeah, I don't know. Ben, what do you think?
Okay, so I just had to check the statistics right as you were speaking about that, just to get some confirmation. In July 2020, South Africa had an estimated population of approximately 59.62 million, and approximately 44,000 South Africans died from tobacco-related diseases annually. So we are talking about less than 7,000. They are talking about 44,000. But you must also look at the population dynamics. It's not that because if in 2020 the population was 59.62 million, that is just about an addition of about 28.62 million, because we're just about 31 million. So you would see that comparatively, South Africa should be having something about twice what we have, which should be about less than 14,000. But this is 44,000. So it means the situation is much worse in South Africa, actually. But any quick reactions, Doc? It appears we still don't have a Dr. Asah-Asante, but that's a cause for concern and something that, because, you know, you go to other countries, we can all attest to the fact that in South Africa, there are more, I think, more smokers than in Ghana.
Yeah.
You know, you go to other countries and you see that per every 10 people that pass by, you will find 1, 2, 3 that are smoking.
Even 2, 3 is a lot.
But in Ghana, you wouldn't find that. So I'm not surprised.
You're talking about in Ghana, in Ghana, definitely.
Well, let's check out some other stories now. The Finder newspaper, 1,641 Chinese involved in illegal mining repatriated since 2009. The story is not going anywhere. 86 commit suicide, Mapito, while 902 attempted to commit suicide in 2021. I'll get into that. Since we are talking of tobacco, how about we talk suicide as well? Healthcare bills killing retired soldiers. That's according to the VAG. Is that the Veterans Association of Ghana? I'll get you details. And then 58 road projects ongoing in Volta, 102.5 kilometers completed, 694.73 kilometers ongoing. Of course, that is on the back of the president's visit tour of the Volta region, the 12th and the 13th of the month. And these are the details being given. But let's take a look at that story on pages, those stories on pages 5 and 6, having to do with suicide and healthcare bills. So, attempted suicide rose to 902 as at the end of 2021. 777 attempted suicides in 2020, and this is 125 more than the 777 attempted suicides recorded in 2020. Now, 797 attempted suicides in... So this story is a bit... I don't know what is happening with the finder, but it starts actually with similarly, which you can't start a story with. It's a hodgepodge of many things, but it talks about many cases not being reported for fear of being stigmatized.
That's right.
And Professor Akwesi Osei, the chief executive of the Mental Health Authority, pointed out that many cases of suicide and attempted suicide are not reported due to the fear of being stigmatized and fear of community repercussions. Someone dies of suicide every 40 seconds. He cited global statistics which show that someone dies of suicide every 40 seconds, saying it must be a thing of the past. There's a real problem with this story, the way it's been couched, so I'll just leave it here. But at least the salient points can be taken that it is becoming quite an issue. So 86 people, we may take it for granted, but that is 86 lives that we cannot account for.
86 families.
86 families,
86,
very good point.
86 breadwinners. You know, the thing about mental health, especially here in West Africa, people don't talk about it. If you tell someone that you're depressed or you're feeling like you have anxiety, what is causing you anxiety? Why you're too known? You're being a DB. You understand? So
You're being too emotional.
You're being too emotional. So people
Or you're being a drama queen.
Suffer in silence. And there comes a point in one's life where you can't suffer anymore in silence. And you know what? You feel like it's better to end the pain. Yeah. And it's better to just go to sleep forever. Because I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm talking about how I'm feeling, but people are saying that I'm being emotional, I'm being too dramatic, so you know what, I might as well just go meet my maker. It's mental health.
Especially with the economic situation we're in and everything else that is happening. It's very easy for people to just snap and give up if they don't have the right, social systems to hold them up. And the social systems are not really there. Back then, it used to be a lot of, the extended family system, a lot of support. It was a backbone. But now we're becoming more like the West. It's you for yourself and God for us all. So, I mean, it's a really stark situation.
And a lot of people are very selfish and... Yeah,
I know there are things on your mind.
I don't want to get into mental health. I don't want to get into mental health. But
it's an issue.
But to whoever is going through a tough time, if you're depressed, find someone to talk to. Find someone to talk to. It is important because you are needed, you are wanted. Oh no, I don't want to talk about mental health.
Let's just do a few more stories. I'll just do this one. I think I'll wrap with this one. Healthcare bills killing retired soldiers. That's from the Veterans Administration Ghana, which is bemoaning the financial stress old soldiers are experiencing in paying healthcare bills. Ex-WO1 Bright Sigbefia, Public Relations Officer VAG, said hitherto military personnel, veterans, their wives and children below 18 years received free medical care at the 37 military hospital. But that had changed, with veterans having to pay for healthcare services. So woes upon woes. And again, that could be tied to people wanting to take their lives because they think, look, what am I struggling in all of this for?
Well, suicide is never the option. It's never the option. That's the finder. We have also from the Daily Searchlight before we leave, for sports, stranded in Congo, the horror story of 29 Ghanaian men. That's the big story there. We also have pay us our monies. Contractors cry out to government. So let's go to page 2 quickly with that story, stranded in Congo, the horror story of 29 Ghanaian men. They say that their passports have been confiscated by their Chinese friends and they're being held indoors by the...
Confiscated by their Chinese friends?
By their Chinese friends.
You mean in the Congo?
Right, in the Congo, yeah.
Wow.
So
it has to do with the mining activities and other things going on.
Yes, people typically saying, okay, I'm going to leave Ghana to look for a better future or in search of
greener
a better
pastures.
future, greener pastures. So let me go to Congo. And then your Chinese friend will be like, okay, give me your passport because I need to do A, B, and C for you. And because you're so gullible and so desperate, you give them your passport, they end up abusing you, they end up, maltreating you, which is a case in like the UAE, where people or ladies go to...
Not just the UAE, Bahrain and other places.
So many places.
Wow.
And then they become stranded with nowhere to go,
These issues, but I keep saying, if our economic situation were good, you wouldn't have so many of our nationals on the continent trying to go to all these places and getting this frustrated. Anyway, Mapito, it's been another refreshing edition. Unfortunate that we couldn't wrap with Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. But sports is up next, and I can give you a bit of a teaser on the international front. Yesterday, Barcelona played everything, but they simply could not take their chances. Interestingly, Robert Lewandowski, formerly with Bayern Munich, missed about 4 glaring chances, and they lost to Bayern Munich by 2-0. More in sports coming your way. Stay.